From the right, this guy comes dashing in, just wearing this skin-tight, rubber, black and golden suit.
A Seattle man strolls into this comic store, enters a hidden back room, and emerges transformed.
I'm Phoenix Jones. I'm also Ben Fodor. I also protect the city. I also am a father. I also am a brother. You know, I'm just like everyone else.
Superheroes. Who doesn't love a good superhero story, either as a comic, movie, show, or video game? If the MCU is anything to go by, I'd say superhero-related stuff still has a massive audience, even though the MCU hasn't been doing the greatest lately, but still, superhero stuff is still on the rage, and I don't think it's gonna go anywhere anytime soon, even if a lot of people wanted to. But what if someone loved the idea of superheroes so much they decided they wanted to be one in real life, costume and all? Well, that's not a what if. There are plenty of people that actually do this. Some like to go around and document crimes with cameras and report it to police. Others help people in need, like giving food to the homeless or volunteering at like kitchens and stuff. But there was one guy that tried to fight crime alongside the police and tried to clean up the streets of Seattle, Washington. He went all in and decided he was gonna actually tangle with criminals. That man is Phoenix Jones, probably the most popular and infamous real-life superhero. Rocking a 10 grand bulletproof bodysuit, a stun baton, and pepper spray, on top of his years of martial arts experience, Phoenix Jones might be the closest you can get to a comic book superhero in real life. Unfortunately, Harvey Dent's words to Bruce Wayne applies to Phoenix Jones. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And, well, Phoenix Jones lived long enough to become the villain. Let's get into it. All heroes have an origin story, and Phoenix Jones, real name Benjamin John Francis Fodor, has an origin story that sounds like something straight out of a comic book. There were two incidents that caused Benjamin to become a superhero. One involved his car being broken into, and unfortunately his son was injured after falling onto the broken glass. And Benjamin was told by other people that they saw the break-in happen but did nothing to prevent it or call the police, which... yeah, really guys? Really? But the next incident was when a friend of his was getting assaulted outside of a bar. After calling the cops, Benjamin put on the mask that the person who tried to break into his car was wearing, because I guess they left it at the scene, and he decided to intervene until the cops actually got there. These two events transformed Benjamin Fodor into the superhero known as Phoenix Jones. Benjamin would disappear into a hidden room inside of a comic book shop, no, I'm not making this up, there's footage of this, and then step out donning his dragon skin brand bulletproof vest and stab plated costume. When things were just starting out for Phoenix Jones, he would run into minor things like calming down on rowdy drunk people, if he was lucky to even see any crimes going on at all. But one day, Phoenix got his big break and interfered with a carjacking.
You just start sticking it down inside between the window here and the rubber strip.
Dan was calling 911, but help flew in before he finished dialing.
From the right, this guy comes dashing in, just wearing this skin-tight, rubber, black and golden suit, and starts chasing him away.
What Dan didn't know is just about every night, an anonymous Seattle man strolls into this comic store, enters a hidden back room, and emerges transformed.
After this, Jones wanted to interfere with more serious crimes, including breaking up street fights and intimidating drug dealers. These would result in him getting injuries. In 2011, Jones claims to have had his nose broken by someone when attempting to break up a fight. He said one of the assailants pulled a gun while the other kicked him in the face and broke his nose.
Phoenix Jones calls himself a crime fighter. He's the man who dresses up and patrols the streets at night.
I endanger my life with a reason and a purpose.
But a man held him at gunpoint Saturday night while another kicked him and broke his nose.
It's under my eye over here on this.
I can see your eye, it's all swollen. And now police say enough is enough. It happened in Seattle's Belltown.
They're all swearing at each other and like about to fight.
Phoenix broke up a brawl. One of the guys turned on him.
And he starts swinging on me and trying to start an altercation with me.
So Phoenix called 911, put the guy in a hold, and waited for police to arrive. But seconds later, Phoenix says another guy pulled a gun.
As I'm still holding this guy down, and that's when
the second guy came up and said, I got a gun.
Yeah.
Despite suffering injuries like these and even being stabbed allegedly, Jones kept at it. Yeah, he wanted to be as close to a real-life Batman as possible, just minus the millions of dollars. His actions often led to the disapproval of other superheroes and the police. Speaking of the attitudes of other heroes, we should talk about that because that's equally as interesting. Jones received condemnation from a lot of other heroes who believed that he was delusional and that his actions, his direct interference with like police and crime would cause problems for heroes down the line. I guess they feared that the police would crack down on them more or some law would get passed that would give the police right to just arrest them on sight or, I think pretty legitimate concerns, honestly. But because of his direct intervention, he became a pariah in the superhero community, especially starting out. But believe it or not, the whole real-life superhero thing goes all the way back to the 70s. It can be traced to some guy who went under the name Captain Sticky, which, oh man, there's some lewd jokes I can make about that name. Let me not do it. But this article I found says he chose that name because of his love of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Man, I'm trying not to make a crude joke here, but you ain't helping me right now. Come on. Really?
Now, I like to put the jelly inside my ass. Then put some of this peanut butter on top of it. I call it a peanut butter jelly and sandwich. But Tom here will be calling it lunch.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Moving on. Captain Sticky was a guy who retired when he turned 28 after making a fortune selling corrugated fiberglass, which was a popular building material that just exploded in popularity around that time, according to this article anyway. I don't know shit about construction stuff or materials like that. But Captain Sticky, real name Richard Pesta, would wear a jumpsuit and cape and ride around in Escondido, California in a custom bubble-top Lincoln he dubbed the Sticky Mobile. He may or may not have had a gun that shot out peanut butter, which, depending on who you are, could be a deadly weapon, because, peanut allergies is no joke. I've seen people almost die from that shit, so if that was true, that might be a bit more threatening than you first think. But what Captain Sticky was known for was he would help expose shady car repair shops that would overcharge people for things, and he would also advocate for consumer rights and better care for the senior citizens of Orange County that were in nursing homes. He even got to meet the man himself, Stan Lee, and at one point was in negotiations with Marvel to get a comic made, but from what I can find, I don't think this actually happened, which is kind of sad. That's something that would be pretty cool, even if it's just a little cameo or something. Sadly, Richard Pesta passed away in 2003. I bring him up because he's, as far as I can tell, he's like the progenitor for real-life superheroes in general. Specifically the non-violent ones who don't physically intervene in crime. For the people that are more so proactive, I guess, or more active with stopping crime, that can be traced to another superhero in real life called Master Legend, as he's the first noteworthy one to actually find crime and get involved, like directly. This guy would patrol Winter Park, which is just outside of Orlando, Florida, looking for crime. He came strapped to with his Master Blaster. I just realized that kind of sounds like a sex joke. God damn it. But this was a cannon that fired plastic Easter eggs filled with rock salt and cayenne pepper, which sounds painful as shit if it gets anywhere near your eyes. This dude made headlines back in 2008 when he was actually featured in a Rolling Stone article. I also found an article from 2014 about Amazon making a show about this guy. It was like a 30-minute comedy special thing called The Legend of Master Legend. And it did come out in 2017. I had no idea this existed. But I don't think it did all that well because there's barely any reviews for it on IMDb and it has a 6.2 out of 10. But in recent decades, there have been more and more people donning costumes and adopting superhero personas. Most of them tried to stay safe and be on the good side of the law and help wherever they could. And Jones was in stark contrast to this and seemingly disliked and looked down on them and has made numerous statements about how he feels about other heroes and that they're not real heroes because they don't actually stop crime. And he calls them LARPers and stuff. But By mid-2011, he was well on his way to becoming the most famous real-life superhero and would take pictures with fans, give shout-outs, etc. He formed a group of like-minded superheroes, one of them being a woman that went by the name of Purple Rain, that served as a strategist and monitored police radio to tell the others where to go. Purple Rain is also, or was, Phoenix Jones's wife. I think they're separated. I don't know if they're actually divorced. But the two of them would work together and be the PR of the group. To join Phoenix's group, you needed to know how to fight, and they preferred if you had martial arts or military experience. I don't think you were getting in if you didn't have either one of those. But by late 2011, the group had about 10 members, and they went under the name of the Rain City Superhero Movement, with Phoenix Jones as the leader. Jones's actions were very polarizing, as he would invite camera crews to follow him around on patrols, and some people felt like this was more of a vanity project, which in hindsight I think that his critics were right about that, but they were kind of drowned out by his overwhelming waves of support and fans and stuff like that. But some of the articles I've looked into have journalists either outright saying that some of his exploits are untrue, or that they cannot find anything that corroborates his story. Take the carjacking story I mentioned, that was the thing that I think got him like the most attention when he first started out, like his first big break, if you will. The guy who claims Jones swooped in and helped him refused to give his last name, and when news agencies reached out to police in the area, they told reporters that they couldn't verify any of this. A spokesperson for the Linwood Police Department went even further and said that it was a false report and that the carjacking never happened. Or I should say the attempted carjacking never happened. Another noteworthy thing that this archive article I found mentions was that when pressed to verify his near-death encounters, including a shooting in Tacoma and a stabbing in Seattle, Jones didn't provide any evidence and claims that he has a private doctor that treats his serious injuries and that the doctor won't reveal his name or do interviews for a risk of losing his medical license. Jones has also never handed over his medical records, and apparently neither of these incidents were reported to the police, which seems a bit fishy. The article goes on to say that as of May 5th, 2016, there were a total of 18 incidents where Phoenix Jones contacted the police, and out of those 18, only 7 of those had officers filing reports, and from that, only 2 of them led to an actual arrest. There was even an incident where he reportedly pinned a drug dealer to the ground, but 2 other guys caught him off guard, and one held him at gunpoint while the other kicked him in the face, which is the incident I was referencing earlier when I talked about the broken nose. The police did respond to a 911 call from him, but they could not locate the incident or complainant, or that's the terminology they use, and because of that, they didn't file a report. But of course, as I showed, there is video of him which looks like he does have a broken nose. There's definitely some bruise in there, so he definitely got fucked up by something. But he claims a local news group called KOMO has footage of the fight, but agreed to not show it in exchange for an interview with Phoenix. But the news station's director, a woman named Holly, I think it's pronounced Gaunt, outright said this wasn't true. She said Jones put them in touch with someone who allegedly has footage of this on their phone, but the footage has never been shown. There is one noteworthy arrest involving a drug bust with another superhero named Pitch Black. It's not Vin Diesel. Not Vin Diesel being Riddick. It's somebody else.
Pitch Black's gonna go undercover and attempt to make a drug buy.
I don't usually look like this.
And once he sees the drugs or the thing, we're gonna come in and bust him. Here's what's going on. We got cameras all over, and we saw what was going on, and we came in here because we saw what's going on. We're not putting up with it anymore. We're tired of it. Bad people keep selling drugs in the city, polluting the block, and we're just not putting up with it.
But Pitch Black was out of costume for this, and when a man offered to sell him heroin, Jones and a few other superheroes decided to detain the guy until the police arrived, And the dealer then turned out his pockets when confronted by police, and they found 5 oxycodone pills and a clear straw containing a brownish residue, which sounds like it was probably heroin or some other kind of drug. Other noteworthy highlights was Jones stopping a bus hijacking. Despite the dubious natures of some of his claims, Jones was a guest on talk shows and other events. However, his actions during his night patrols always skirted a fine line of legality, and his reckless approach did catch up to him eventually. You see, in October of 2011, Jones was arrested for investigating an assault.
Watch out.
According to Jones, he thought that an assault was taking place when he saw these group of people together, and so he ran in, and he instructed the group to break it up and move away from each other, while another hero called Ghost dialed 911 to get the police involved. Apparently, the people turned on Jones and he lost control of the situation, and he decided to start pepper spraying people. The police arrived sometime later and took statements, and according to the police report, the people were just dancing and having fun after just leaving a nearby nightclub. Then Jones came up to them and was shouting at them and pepper spraying them. This was the second complaint that Jones had received that night, and he was later arrested for assault. He remained in jail for 7 hours and posted his bail. Then, when freed, he did something surprising. He invited the press around him, and then he unmasked himself,
revealing the man behind the mask, Benjamin Fodor.
I'm Phoenix Jones. I'm also Ben Fodor. I also protect the city. I also am a father. I also am a brother. I'm just like everyone else.
In the short term, this move kind of backfired somewhat because he was fired from his day job, and his day job was actually something that I think most people agree is very respectable. He worked at a daycare for special needs kids, but unfortunately after this incident he was fired from that job, and the police also confiscated his suit for investigation. Luckily he had a backup suit, but you'd think after being charged like this he would lay low for a bit and wait for charges to clear. But no, he kept patrolling and was confident that the charges would be dropped. And he was right, they were later dropped. Jones and his popularity and stardom only grew from this. Another crazy, noteworthy moment was during the Seattle May Day protest of 2012. Phoenix Jones and other heroes confronted protesters at the federal courthouse in Seattle. Jones claimed on the Bob Rivers show on May the 2nd that during the protests, some of the protesters thought that he was with them and told him that there was a plot to plant a bomb at the courthouse. He apparently told the cops this, but they didn't take it serious. Because of that, Jones and his fellow heroes decided to confront the protesters. And this did result in one of the other heroes, not Jones this time, pepper spraying people.
The crowd was actually rumoring a bomb blowing up a building?
Yeah, that's what the people with the black masks were rumoring, because they're kind of dumb, and I don't know if they haven't been to Seattle, but they didn't know that I'm not part of their crew. So they just kept telling me stuff.
So you were infiltrating them? They thought
No,
because you were...
We were just walking, and they were wearing masks, and we were.
Right, but because you are as dressed up as a superhero, they thought this guy must be into craziness like us.
Exactly.
Perfect.
I couldn't find any articles that corroborate a bomb threat of any kind. The other thing I could find is that other heroes with Jones were pepper spraying people, and there were some articles ridiculing the whole situation, but it doesn't seem like much else came from this. However, something tragic and unfortunate happened in 2012 that changed Phoenix and the entire Rain City superhero movement. People who know the entire Phoenix Jones story probably already know what I'm about to talk about. On April 22nd of 2012, a woman named NICOLE Westbrook was celebrating her boyfriend's first paycheck with a night out in a town. She had just moved to Seattle from New Mexico, and they wanted to celebrate, and unfortunately she was shot and killed. Phoenix Jones was there. What happened was someone shot at a crowd from a car, a drive-by shooting, it seems like, based on what I could find, and Jones heard the shots and saw a man with a backpack carrying a gun fleeing the scene. Jones pursued him until the cops told him to halt. NICOLE was most likely not the intended target here, and the man with a backpack is believed to have been the intended target that the shooters were trying to kill. To this day, As far as I can tell, this case has never been resolved. This issue had an effect on Jones, and he reflected on it by saying the following.
A fire engine drives by and washes the blood off the sidewalk, and it runs down into a drain, Jones recalled. I just kept sitting on the sidewalk. About another hour goes by, and people start walking by for work and to their normal, everyday life. My world has completely changed. It really hit home for me. People don't understand, and they don't get it. And they are not going to care unless I give them a reason.
He went on to say more.
This is one of the worst moments of my life. It's bothered me ever since, he said. I don't sleep as well as I used to. I don't do the things the way I used to. Now, when I hear gunfire, I make sure that I run towards it. It changed the whole way that I do things.
In 2015, this tragedy led to some controversy when a graphic depiction of the incident appeared in a comic book that Phoenix Jones had commissioned about his time as a real-life superhero. And a lot of people thought this was in bad taste and felt it was inappropriate. Jones fired back about this and claimed that the people didn't like it because it was too real.
I guess I'm just telling my story and this happens to be part of it, he said. This comic reveals a lot of things people don't know, and a lot of stories people don't know, and it started with this.
He also said,
they didn't like it and thought it was too real, Jones said. If you want to read a fake comic book, get a Batman comic book. If you want to read about my life and help someone, and maybe get the case back out in the news, and maybe get somebody to know what happened, read my comic book.
The comic is based off of journals that Jones would write to document what he was doing as a superhero. It should be mentioned that Nicole's sister did say on Facebook that she supported the comic and that she hoped that it would bring more awareness and get the story out there and maybe lead to someone coming forward with some information that could lead to an arrest or some kind of justice here. So take that into account when forming your opinion about this stuff. But this tragic case seemed to start a shift in Phoenix's story and the story of the Rain City superhero movement as a whole. As Jones's fame grew, he began to assume a leadership role not just at the local level, but at the national level. He wanted other superheroes across the nation to adhere to the same standards he followed. He created an umbrella organization called the Alliance that would be a registry for heroes, and then they had to follow some of his rules. His patrols became a lot more systematic, and he and his allies would cooperate with police more, and they would have GoPros to document evidence, which seemed to foster a better relationship between him and the police. Unfortunately, an argument over a helmet involving one of Phoenix's most loyal friends, a fellow superhero called El Caballero, caused him to leave the group. El Caballero accused Jones of stealing a helmet, and I guess the argument with that caused El Caballero to just walk away. This was only the start. In November of 2013, Purple Rain announced that she and Jones were no longer together and would not be working together anymore, and that she was leaving the group. She didn't give any details and didn't want to, which I can respect, that professionalism. After losing two of his closest allies, there was a rise of disgruntled superheroes that left the group and began revealing dirt on Jones, the things that we didn't see. One of the heroes, called Shockwave, levied some pretty serious accusations. You see, per Jones's instructions and requirements, all heroes who worked with him, they were required to wear a bulletproof vest, and they had to pay him for their vest, as he had a deal with a manufacturer, supposedly. According to Shockwave, they would give him $87, but they never received the vest. Another claim that Shockwave levied was that they would pay monthly fees for health insurance to Jones, but there was never any evidence that this health insurance plan existed. There was no statements or anything. Another claim was how he would prey on people outside of bars who were just drunk and unable to function normally. He also references a time where Jones challenged someone to mutual combat under the surveillance of police. So the way mutual combat works, with disclaimer, I am not a lawyer, so this is a complete layman trying to understand this. But from my understanding, the way it works is if two people consent to engage in a fair fight and they're not hurting bystanders or damaging property, then it's fine. And in this case, it seems like since the cops didn't interfere at all, this was ruled as a legal fight. And I'll play a clip of that.
Live stream.
Pull it out. You guys think you're a superhero thing.
Yep, it's recording. It's been recording ever since we were down there.
Yo, Washington's a mutual combat state. If you'd like to agree to fight, we can do that if you'd like to. If you would like to.
PJ has offered to engage suspect in orange shirt to mutual combat under the laws of Washington State. Suspect appears ready to fight. Cop has arrived.
Ready? Get away. Hey, you back up.
Alright, guys, nobody intervening? These two. We're all call.
Alright, about to see mutual combat.
You gotta check those. You gotta check those. Oh, you gotta check those. You gotta keep those down with those. Don't try to take you alive. You gotta wait. You gotta keep his jab. Oh, he almost got me with the kick. I'm a piece of though. Swing, you rushing and swing. You can't do that.
I want to point out this is a weird thing to do because I have to remind you that Jones has an MMA background and his opponent is visibly intoxicated. It doesn't seem very heroic to me to beat up a rowdy drunk person, even if they did something fucked up like shouting a racial slur at you. Not the best look in my opinion. And the cops are already there anyway, so if the guy was doing anything, you know, super heinous, he could have just let the cops handle it. But in May of 2014, Jones disbanded the Rain City superhero movement. But despite this, he continued to patrol and he mostly did it solo. He also returned to MMA and fought under his superhero alias, and he would wear his mask when accepting fight decisions. Some accusations came out from one of Jones's former friends claiming that Jones threatened to assault him due to him hitting on a girl that Jones was talking to, and there's police body cam footage for this.
I guess last night I hit on one of his girlfriends that he didn't like, and he started slandering me all over Facebook, and then he came here threatening me, said he was going to beat me and piss on my face, and then when she went downstairs to tell him to leave, he said if I didn't come out, he was going to kick the door in. He also said he was going to kill me, that I need to be dead. I have all these screenshots on.
Yeah, he texted him
On.
saying that he would
I
follow
have
him
them all
around,
on my phone.
would find him.
And kill me.
So...
In 2019, Jones announced he was taking a break from crime fighting and seemed to become more jaded and cynical over time. He also became very defensive in questioning about his heroics and put down other heroes. Another noteworthy thing was he allegedly beat up a criminal and left them on the side of the street, and instead of calling the police, he tweeted at them and left his card with the person, which is a print of a photo he did that you've probably seen before. It's actually it's a pretty cool photo, I'm not gonna lie. It actually looks like something out of a movie poster. But things don't end here. You see, Jones in 2020 was criminally charged. He was arrested on drug dealing, drug charges. Yeah, he was arrested for selling Molly. Dude became a full-blown drug dealer. A witness told detectives that they couldn't believe that he hadn't been caught sooner. So the cops did an undercover sting operation to catch him, and Jones sold MDMA, or Molly, to an undercover narcotics detective at a damn Starbucks of all places. Prior to the deal, the detective sent Jones $300 through Venmo, and he accepted an additional $200 in person and agreed to sell more drugs. A month later, they got him to sell more drugs, and he and his girlfriend were arrested. They had 7 separate bundles of cocaine on them weighing at 4 grams, as well as several packages with an unknown white powder, according to this article. People on the Seattle subreddit claimed he was dealing drugs for years and wasn't subtle about it, and apparently had more than just cocaine in his arsenal. This is pretty ironic considering he would target drug dealers a lot. I guess he wanted to eliminate his competition. He was also apparently so brazen about his drug dealing that he would do it while wearing a Phoenix Jones t-shirt. Like, that is just the ultimate display of not giving a fuck. You were just asking to be caught at that point. Like, come on, bro. The internet had a fucking field day with this shit, and I can't say I blame them. Since this happened, he's still active online, and some people speculate that he is trying to make a return. According to Wikipedia, he was seen patrolling the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or CHAZ, back in 2020. Yeah, remember that clusterfuck? In an article from The Guardian that came out in April of 2022, he told a journalist that he wanted to get a visa to go fight in Ukraine, but one of the other people in the article says that he can't because he's on federal probation, so he's not allowed to, leave the country. I don't think he's allowed to leave the country for that reason. The story of Phoenix Jones is fascinating. Dude hit all of the comic book tropes. He had an origin story. He concealed his identity. He later revealed his identity in dramatic fashion. He fought crime, or at the very least tried to. Did nightly patrols, assembled his own team of superheroes, had the media praising and also shitting on him, and then somehow became the villain. This feels like a run for a Marvel comic, but this is real life. The more I look into this, the more I question how I feel about this guy, because normally when I make these videos, my opinion of them when I come out of it is very clear. Like, it's like, oh yeah, this person's a piece of shit or whatever. But in this case, I'm mixed. Part of me feels like he's just a massive narcissist and has always been, and that it only got worse as the fame got to his head. Another part of me thinks that he genuinely wanted to help people at first. It wanted to do the best he could, and he wasn't, it wasn't just to get famous or whatever. But as the fame went to his head, it became more about that. Like, he lost sight of why he was doing this shit. But I should mention that he and others around him have done good. Like, just to be fair, like Purple Rain, for example, worked alongside a counseling center for domestic abuse victims, and she also created a nonprofit that provided resources for domestic abuse victims, and she even won a Woman of Courage award from the University of Washington. And while I question Phoenix Jones' character, I see people praising him for helping them, and part of me wants to believe them, but another part of me is wondering, if this is all, if this stuff is staged, and just like, how heroic was he really? And some people think he's trying to do some sort of redemption run, but I don't know how to feel about it, because I feel like because of what he's done and because of how famous he was, like superheroes in Seattle at least, it's over with. I mean, everyone's just gonna think, oh, what are you gonna go sell drugs like Phoenix Jones did? So I don't know if him trying to come back is even gonna work. I just don't. But I guess time will tell if he does try that and if it works and if people are willing to overlook the drug thing and some of the other things he's been accused of. But that's going to be where we stop this video for now. I know this one is a bit different than the usual Penguin Observation Network videos, since I don't consider Jones a locale, but just rather a really interesting person. But let me know what you guys think about this, and if you enjoyed this, please leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing and all that stuff. And I'll see you later.